Hi there traders, this is Steve Miley for FxExplained and our regular weekly macro watch. We're going to take a look back at what's happened in the last week going into the end of October in here and looking at the week commencing the 28th of October. And it's going to be a big week ahead for Brexit, a big week ahead with the Fed, a big week ahead for corporate earnings and macroeconomic data. First of all, we're going to take a focus on what's been happening in the last week. And really the market was dominated, the financial market still focusing very much on Brexit. We've had a very strong move upward in equity markets and upward in the pound over the past few weeks on hopes of a deal on Brexit. However, that deal now before the 31st of October deadline looks very unlikely, and what we're now looking for is potential for a general election in the UK. So there's a real risk of that, and a vote potentially as early as this Monday to whether we go ahead with a general election, with the dates being put forward at the moment, the 9th of December and more likely the 12th of December, if we get a go ahead. But there's a lot of politics to be done before we get anywhere near a potential calling of a general election. On the Brexit front as well, we have the EU still not actually fully decided on the length of any extension, an agreement in principle for an extension, but at the moment EU members are looking to extend until the 31st of January, but France in here at the moment trying to encourage the UK to push ahead with the new Brexit deal and only want to grant an extension out until November. So we're going to watch this space for the response before the 31st of October, obviously on the reaction from the EU and how long we get that extension for, and that's going to potentially depend on what goes on this week in the UK political arena. The impact on markets in here over the past week has been a dip lower in the pound against the dollar here. We see the pound dollar cable pushed above 130 last week, but dipping below 128.50 to end the week in here. The other big event we've really seen over the last week has been the real onslaught of US earnings for the Q3 reporting season in here, and overall has been a positive reaction to earnings season so far. Even when we've had earnings that have not performed so well, so we're talking about in here earnings from Caterpillar and Boeing, the stocks have actually done fairly well, and the US equity indices pushing higher, and also taking European stock indices higher. And here we're looking at the DAX moving to a multi-month high in here, up through peaks seen from both this year and from peaks from last year. So a multi-month high in here for the almost multi-year high for the DAX, pushing up into new territory. So a strong performance from equity markets in both Europe and the US in reaction to US corporate earnings season. Elsewhere on the geopolitical front, the US-Sino trade talks continue, and the soundings, the rhetoric have been fairly positive from both sides in fleshing out the phase 1 deal that was agreed earlier in October. And on the more potentially negative, but at the moment positive side, the conflict, the Turkish-Syria conflict in here has maintained a tentative ceasefire. So that's seen as a short-term positive, but in the longer term, this whole event, this whole potential conflict needs to be monitored because it could have a more negative impact on global financial markets. And similarly, the US presidential impeachment inquiry continues, again having only muted impact so far on financial markets. However, the real potential impact is still for a more negative outcome as we get going further and deeper into that inquiry and if the impeachment process starts. Looking ahead to this week, Japanese CPI Monday, US consumer confidence on Tuesday. But we really kickstart going into the middle of the week. We have the Bank of Canada interest rate decision on Wednesday, and then the Fed interest rate decision also on Wednesday in here. Moving through from Thursday, which is Brexit deadline, we also get Bank of Japan interest rate decision and various Eurozone data, including GDP, unemployment and CPI. And then into the end of the week, we get the US employment report, including that non-farm payroll, much watched data. On the earnings side, it's a heavy week as well. Google, AT&T, Walgreens from the US, also getting Apple and Facebook and Starbucks and General Electric on Wednesday. And then from the UK, we get HSBC, BP, GlaxoSmithKline, Lloyds and BAT all this week. So a heavy week for US and UK corporate earnings. So we're going to be watching this space. I'm going to wish you all a great trading day, and I'll be back with you soon for another macro watch next week. So traders, don't forget to catch us on the next FX Explained Macro Watch and all the great content on fxexplained.co.uk.